After almost 9 months waiting, we finally have access to the first look of Marvel Multiverse RPG in an article posted by Marvel.com. Now there's a couple of things that I'm really excited about in this article, so without further ado, let's get right into it. What's up guys, welcome to Critical Insight, the show where I talk to you guys about tabletop role-playing game. I give GM advice, I also give some product reviews, also I talk about things that I'm really excited for in games that are coming out. If you find this kind of content useful, please make sure that you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell icon so you can stay up to date with the videos that I'm going to post. Also, you can share the video to anyone who you think might like it. Anyway, so back to Marvel Multiverse RPG, which I'm just going to call it Marvel RPG because it's shorter. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about that was in the article that I was really excited about, and it's something that I already talked about in the my hopes, or rather my expectations, hopes, and fears for Marvel RPG, which I'm going to try to put the video up in the card, was how I hoped that we could create our own characters, not just play the characters that were already created by them. And the first thing that I read in the article is that we are in fact going to be able to create our own characters. This itself comes with a lot of questions, but I'm guessing it's questions that we're going to have answered once we get our hands on the playtest document, or the playtest rulebook, which is supposed to come in April 20th. Another thing that I was really excited about, and it's something I also talked about in the video that I mentioned before, is the fact that they're not only going to give us the rules of how to play, some characters, I believe the characters that they were going to give us character sheets for were Spider-Man, Wolverine, Captain America. I think they somewhat mentioned at some point Squirrel Girl and Captain Marvel, but I think that was for some other thing. Anyway, the point is that they are also going to give us a little story, or sort of a small campaign for us to be able to playtest the content in. And this is something that I expected them to do, sort of like they do in D&D and Pathfinder and most other tabletop role-playing games. They have already pre-made stories, and that is something that they definitely are going to include. Something that I'm also very excited about, and it's something that I already talked about in my previous video, is that they want us to have stories and combat that seems that it was out of Marvel themselves. In the past, their games were either super story heavy and no emphasis or very low emphasis on combat, or heavy combat with almost no emphasis on story mechanics. It seems that this game is going to have a perfect blend of both, and that is something that I'm really excited about. And when talking about characters, something that completely went over my head was how different certain power levels are when comparing characters from within the comics or even within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they mentioned that the system is going to allow us to work with characters ranging in power from Squirrel Girl all the way up to Captain Marvel and beyond. And that is something that I really even wasn't considering. How are we going to have characters that are maybe Captain America level with like Silver Surfer level? And that brought a couple of questions. The first question is, does that mean that a character's specific abilities or powers are going to limit or enhance how much they're able to do in the story or in combat? Also, I'm wondering, how is this going to translate? Will someone who decides that their powers are going to be like Captain Marvel's, will that character have more of an impact in the story and in combat than someone who chooses to have Captain America's powers? How is it all going to translate? How are players going to be able to manifest their characters in a way that they are meaningful for combat and for story without feeling limited by their choices? I guess we'll know more about that when the rulebook comes out. And another thing they mentioned in the article is, again, emphasis on their new system, the 3616 system, which is what they're going to be using for the game. Now, this system uses 3d6, so 3 six-sided dice, one of which is going to be called the Marvel die. And apparently, if you get a 1 or the Marvel logo in that die, something fantastic is going to happen, how they put it in the article. The way that I think it's going to work, and we'll know more when the actual rules come out, is we roll our 3d6 and we add the score that we obtained there to our modifiers, and that's going to give us our total. Now, this is very similar to how we roll dice and make checks or rolls in other tabletop role-playing games, but there's a very interesting difference that I want to talk about soon when we talk about the character sheets. Actually, you know what? Let's just go into it now. So if we go to the character sheet, which you can find in the article, which I linked down in the, how is it that Matthew Colville says it? Matt Colville. The doobly-doo? It's in the doobly-doo down below in the description. If we look at Spider-Man's character sheet, the first thing we see is the rank. And the rank is level 10, or rank number 10. And also, he has something beside it that says polymath. What does that mean in the context of the game? We don't know. I guess we'll know once the rules come out. The rest of the information right below that is the biography, which is more character information that I don't think will necessarily imply any mechanical changes or advantages to, or disadvantages whenever you're rolling dice. But the other thing that I found really important to discuss is the part where it says abilities. And the first thing I see is that right beside abilities is health and focus. Obviously, I'm sure health works like in every single other tabletop role-playing game or role-playing game, but what is interesting for me is the part where it says focus. I'm thinking that maybe focus is that sort of resource that we're going to spend in order to be able to use our powers or abilities. That's what I'm thinking. We'll see. But something that immediately called my attention was that our modifiers are the big number and our score is actually the small number, which is very different from how it works in, let's say, Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. I really want to know how this works, especially because since there's a number right beside it that says defense. Is this going to be like our saves for that particular ability? We'll see. And then under the abilities, we have the speed, climbing speed, jumping speed. In the case of Spider-Man, he has like the swing line speed. And this is something that calls my attention because it says 32 for the speed and it translates to 6 spaces. What would the conversion be? I don't know. We'll have to figure it out later. And under all of that, we have the powers. Now, if we look at the article, it has a little bit of information of how the powers look, but it has like some sort of branching kind of mechanic, which honestly, I am completely clueless on how it could work. But there's another thing, another article that released that actually caught my attention, and that is the Demiplane article. So if you don't know what it is, I didn't know what it is either, but apparently it's a platform much like Dungeons and Dragons, like D&D Beyond. And basically what it is a platform or an application in which you're going to be able to buy the content, create characters, look at the rules, etc. And they're going to release one for Marvel Multiverse RPG, or Marvel RPG, how I said I would call it, and I didn't call it, for Marvel RPG. And this, at least to me, is awesome because that way we are going to be able to have all of our characters in the same place, or character sheets, I guess, in the same place. And it would also automate certain things that maybe people don't necessarily want to deal with. I personally do like digital character sheets for Dungeons and Dragons because I think it makes the game more enjoyable because I can focus on what I want to focus and not in all of the math and all of the thing that to me, really, it doesn't give me any joy to worry about that. That is it for today. If you liked the video, again, make sure that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That really helps the algorithm. And click on the notification bell icon so you can stay up to date with all of the videos that I'm going to post. Thank you guys for giving me a piece of your time. My name is Felix Alexander. This is Critical Insight, and I hope you have a great day and the most amazing peace. Catch you next time, guys. Yeah.